They claim that they can alter voting results for or against a paying candidate. Arrested last Saturday afternoon in a coordinated entrapment operation are Joel Ilagan, Adrian Martinez, and Jeffrey Limpiado. The last of the three is said to be the brains of XSOX.
Direktang kausap ng suspect na si Alice Drake, na ngayon nalaman natin na si Jeffrey Limpiado, na siya rin ang utak ng XOS Group, ay siyang huling tumanggap ng actually budol money, no? Ng 10 million. Kasi humingi nga ng 60 million.
The Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center, together with the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group, caught the suspects in separate locations in Imus, Cavite, and Santa Rosa, Laguna, after 3 meetings with an undercover agent posing as a client. Executive Director Cesar Mancao says the 3 are connected to Richard Argana, the Smartmatic employee who got fired for leaking internal documents on company policies to XSOX. On Monday, authorities filed criminal charges against the suspected hackers for violating the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012, system interference, illegal access, and attempt to commit cybercrime. The COMELEC welcomes this progress, noting again that the automated election system is hack-proof.
So far naman, wala naman talagang isang ebidensya pa na nagpapakita na ang COMELEC system o yung ating halalan ay na-hack o nababago ang result sa pamamagitan po ng pagmamaniobra. Kita nyo yung nangyari ngayon. Kung kayo nakapagbigay sa mga taong ito, paano nyo pa mababawi yung inyong naibigay?
Apart from the Smartmatic breach, the same group is also being blamed for defacing the COMELEC's website, the hacking of different websites, credit cards, and online bank transactions, as well as some incidents of ransomware, where they supposedly infiltrate local websites and demand cash from its original owners. Back to you, Pia.
Mel, what does the COMELEC know about these hackers?
Pia, Commissioner Garcia says believes they're also behind offers to candidates the assuring of a victory on May 9 if they pay 50 to 70 million pesos. Now, Garcia hopes that these hackers will also disclose others who are part of this hacking syndicate. Back to you.
Melissa Lopez there reporting from COMELEC's headquarters in Manila, which is just a stone's throw away from the Manila Cathedral, which is why earlier we could hear church bells pealing. Now, Smartmatic welcoming this development. In a statement, the poll technology provider says, quote, "This will go a long way in assuring the public that authorities are serious in protecting the integrity of the elections," unquote, and that it will put closure to the issue once and for all. Smartmatic earlier clarified that the information contained in the stolen data had to do with company policies and manuals and rules related to out-of-office work. Meanwhile, Senate Electoral Reforms Committee Chairperson Amy Marcos separately saying they are still gathering details on the operation and the suspects. Well, just 13 days to go before the Filipino vote, Senator Ping Lacson canceling all his activities in the Ilocos region today. He denied that local politicians try to deny or block his activities and says he will try to reschedule in the region before the elections.
Masyadong tight yung binigay ng schedule ng staff. So kanina nga medyo sinisit ako. Bakit parang pang Superman naman yung binigay na schedule, baka hindi kayanin. Kasama na rin ako siguro sa mga nag-commit ng lapses doon na hindi ko na-review yung itinerary. So nang makita kong sobrang dikit, sabi ko, teka muna, baka mamatay ako dito.
Lacson held a town hall in the province of Abra today where only dozens of people showed up. He says he was briefed early on that only a few people will participate because of a supposed threat to residents not to join the political activities of those running against incumbent officials. Lacson is allied with the Bersamin family, whose members are running for a number of positions in Abra.
May namatay na nga rito sa Pilar Town. Meron ng insidente. So sana naman yung kasi they always thrive on ignorance, parang abuse, fear, and ignorance ng mga botante. Parang keep them poor and keep them uneducated or keep them ignorant. Nasa ganon, nakadepende lagi sa mga warlords. I just hope na sa whole country, wala na sanang ganon kasi primitive times yun .
One of Vice President Leni Robredo's daughters, Tricia, asks the National Bureau of Investigation to probe the spread of an alleged lewd video with her name on the internet. Tricia says she hopes the NBI can identify the source so they can file appropriate charges. Robredo's eldest daughter, Aika, first sought the NBI's help to investigate a fake malicious video that the Vice President claimed it was from the Marcos campaign. Marcos' spokesperson, Vic Rodriguez, accused Robredo of resorting to dirty politics. Over 65 million Filipinos will steer the country's course for the next 6 years through the ballot. CNN Philippines launched an exclusive series to help voters make more informed decisions. Our senior anchor, Rico Hizon, sat down with Yodi de Guzman in the first of our in-private interviews with presidential candidates. Chrissy Di Matulak sums up that conversation in this report.
From labor leader to presidential hopeful, Yodi de Guzman says he's now ready for a bigger responsibility after 38 years of fighting for the rights of workers.
First time ito na tumayo bilang tumakbong presidente ng bansa na galing sa labor. Kaya hindi na tayo maobligang mamili ng lesser evil na tinatawag. Kundi meron na silang totoong kakampi sa kanilang laban.
De Guzman stayed true to his advocacy, pushing for the welfare of the labor sector. If he wins the presidency, he says his first order of business is to finally put an end to contractualization.
Utusan po yung aking Secretary ng Department of Labor na huwag lang i-restrict, kundi i-prohibit at ibalik sa dating kalakaran.
For the labor leader, one of the steps to totally abolish contractualization is to remove third-party agencies, which delay hiring for many companies.
Ang mukha talaga ng contractualization nasa mga manpower agency. Kaya yan ang dapat buwagin. At direct hiring na dapat. Wala na yung third party. Walang silbi naman yun. Diretso na sa kumpanya.
With the economy still struggling from the pandemic, De Guzman reiterates his call to impose a 20% wealth tax on the country's richest. This, he believes, would lessen the gap between the rich and the poor.
Tama lamang nasa kailakunin sa panahon ito. At dapat nila ikasiya. Dapat sila matuwa dahil magiging bahagi sila ng pagsalba ng kabuhayan ng ating bansa, ng ating mga mamayan.
De Guzman admits the changes he plans to implement are unlike any other. But this, he says, is exactly the reason he's running for president. De Guzman adds there will be no regrets even if he loses the elections, as simply being in the race gave his advocacy the spotlight it needed. Chrissy Di Matulak, CNN Philippines.
Next up on In Private is survey frontrunner Bongbong Marcos. Now, despite his lead, Marcos says he is not letting his guard down. In an interview with senior correspondent Ruth Cabal, he reveals what worries him come Election Day.
Yung mga nababalitaan nating manggugulo sa eleksyon at saka yung dayaan at every level. Alam naman ninyo, nabiktima na ako dyan noong 2016. Kaya siyempre, kailangan maging maingat dyan kasi nakita ko na kung ano yung maaring mangyari. So, yun ang aking inaalala na magkagulo o may manggulo at saka subukan na may isusubok na dayaan ulit.
In 2016, Marcos filed an electoral protest against Vice President Leni Robredo, but the Supreme Court, which is acting as the Presidential Electoral Tribunal, dismissed his motion in 2021, saying he failed to prove his claims. Catch the full interview with Marcos tonight at 8. The Commission on Elections has yet to set the guidelines for sit-down interviews with candidates supposed to air next week. Commissioner George Garcia says rules, questions, and panelists from its new partner, the Kapisanan ng mga Broadcaster ng Pilipinas, or KBP, still need the full Commission's approval. He says he wants more meaningful sessions amid the collapsed debates deal with the blame pinned on private sponsor Impact Hub Manila. In an interview on News.ph, COMELEC Commissioner Ray Bulay says the COMELEC initially thought it will partner with the media in mounting the debates. Would you have preferred just allowing the media networks in partnership with radio stations, with newspapers, the academe, and KBP mount these debates? And then, hindi naman problema ang COMELEC, in other words. So, parang sana gano'n na lang ginawa ng COMELEC mula umpisa.
Yes, I am very much in agreement with that, Pia. Actually, that was the former setup, and we thought all the while that it's going to be the same setup allowed by our own resolution.
Presidential candidate Yodi de Guzman calls on the COMELEC to reconsider its one-on-one interviews. While he still plans to attend the poll body's upcoming panel interview, he says it will not benefit voters as much as a debate would. The hour-long interviews are planned to be taped as live and will air from May 2 to May 6 in KBP partner media networks. The Supreme Court has denied with finality the appeals challenging the constitutionality of the Anti-Terrorism Act. The tribunal said the motions for reconsideration lacked substantial issues and arguments. Lawyer Edre Olalia, representing some of the petitioners, said he hopes that the law will still be struck down or amended, if not repealed altogether, in good time. Malacanang welcoming the decision and considers it both a victory for law-abiding Filipinos and a warning that the country will not serve as a haven for terrorists. In December, the court struck down 2 provisions of the law, including a portion defining what constitutes terrorism for being overboard or overbroad and violative of the freedom of expression. Senator Ping Lacson, one of the authors of the measure, said he is not surprised with the ruling.
That's expected, kasi kung walang bagong arguments na doon sa motion for reconsideration, talagang i-deny talaga yon. And I think those are 15 learned and experienced justices, magistrates. So yung action nila, very seldom nire-reverse nila yung sarili nila.
The Anti-Terrorism Act has been one of the most challenged laws in recent history, with more than 30 petitions filed against it before the Supreme Court. More stories ahead here on Newsnight. Confusion marring the second COVID-19 booster shot rollout. Our Kylie Bonkin has this clarification from health officials. Over 80,000 Filipinos scheduled to vote for 3 days beginning tomorrow in advance who are qualified to cast their ballots. Our Melissa Lopez tells us. Stay with CNN Philippines.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
You're watching Newsnight on CNN Philippines. It's final. Only select persons with underlying conditions can get a second COVID-19 booster shot for now. Hospitals earlier began administering an additional booster to priority groups not yet approved by the Health Department. Carolyn Bonkin explains why this happened.
The Project 7 Social Hygiene Clinic in Quezon City takes care of patients with sexually transmitted diseases. On Tuesday, the clinic began administering second COVID-19 vaccine booster shots to persons living with HIV. They're among select groups with weak immune system allowed to have an extra booster shot. Ryan, who's been living with HIV for 4 years, were among the first in line.
Iniisip ko is prevention better than cure. Kasi kung hindi tayo mag-aano sa sarili natin, tayo yung mahihirapan din eh.
Angel recently found out he has an HIV infection and does all he can to stay healthy. He's thankful the clinic offers COVID-19 vaccines.
Super laking tulong po kasi nahirapan po ako magpa-schedule ng bakuna ko, and then sila na po nag-proactive na magpabakuna ka.
Yung risk kasi of COVID among this cohort o itong mga grupo ng mga pasyente ito, napaka-mataas. Kaya maigi na yung mabigyan na sila ng booster dose sa lalong madaling panahon.
Aside from Navotas and Valenzuela, second booster shots are now available in all Metro Manila cities and municipality. But they are only for people with weak immune systems, like persons living with HIV and cancer, those undergoing steroid treatment, and transplant or bedridden patients. Health Secretary Francisco Duque says senior citizens and healthcare workers shouldn't get a second booster just yet, asking them to wait for guidelines. He says some hospitals administered the second booster shots to health workers without underlying conditions on Monday due to confusion with the Food and Drug Administration memo. The FDA allowed a second booster for moderately and severely immunocompromised individuals, health workers, and senior citizens. But the Health Technology Assessment Council, or HTAC, only gave the go signal for select persons with underlying illness.
Yung available data ay para sa mga immunocompromised pa lamang. Ngayon, may mga karagdagan datos na kinakalap ang HTAC. So I think Thursday or Friday, they will sit down to find out if there is enough data and evidence to support that the second booster dose will be good for the healthcare workers as well as for the senior citizens and the rest of those with comorbidities.
But while the government vaccination moves to its next phase, health workers still face the tough task of convincing those qualified to get the first booster shot. The health secretary appealing to them to get boosted now and not when there's another surge in COVID-19 cases. Caroline Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
A global health facility will replace millions of expired and expiring COVID-19 vaccines in the country. Health Secretary Francisco Duque says it's still unclear if the COVAX facility will replace not just the donated doses, but also those procured by the government and the private sector. Officials are coordinating with the COVAX audit team for the supply. Despite the welcome news, the pandemic watchdog warns of a fresh surge in infections because of the new Omicron subvariants. The Octa Research Group says active cases could reach 50 to 100,000 soon, or 5 to 10,000 new cases every day. It is monitoring the surge in South Africa and India, which have similar characteristics with the Philippines. Octa says it is not recommending another lockdown. The DOH is monitoring 19 cities and provinces with a 2-week positive growth rate of COVID-19 cases. These areas remain under low risk level. COMELEC places more areas under its control amid threats of election-related violence in the run-up to May 9. These include 6 towns in the province of Maguindanao, namely Buluan, Datu Odin, Sinsuat, Datu Piang, Mangda Datu, Pandag, and Sultan Kudarat. 2 more areas in the province of Lanao Sur also declared under the poll body's control. These include Marawi City and Maging Town, in addition to the towns of Malabang and Luburan. Local absentee voting set to kick off from tomorrow until Friday. Those expected to render election-related duties will be allowed to vote early. Melissa Lopez with the details.
Beginning Wednesday, some 84,000 voters across the country will be the first to cast their ballots for the May 9 polls. They join some 1.7 million Filipinos abroad who are qualified for early voting. Called local absentee voters, special arrangements are given to members of the military, police, Coast Guard, Comelec workers, teachers, and even the media, so they can still exercise their right to vote even if they have to report for work on May 9th. The poll body received over 93,000 applications for early voting until March 7th. A tenth of these, however, were rejected as the applicants turned out to be unregistered with Comelec or have been deactivated for failing to vote in 2018 and 2019 or filed late. Those who made the cut may vote from April 27th to April 29th, anytime from 8 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. Military, police, and other government personnel will cast votes in special precincts set up in their offices, while media voters will converge at the local Comelec unit covering their place of work.
Yun po ang ating pinapahalagahan, na walang isamang botanteng Pilipino ang mapapabayaang hindi makakaboto, ano man ang katayuan sa buhay, ano man po ang kanilang trabaho na ginagampanan.
Comelec officials, including Chairman Saidamin Pangarungan, will also avail of absentee voting. Masks are a must amid the pandemic. A voter must show up at their makeshift polling center, secure a ballot sheet, envelopes, and paper seals. They must fill out the ballot secretly, affix their thumb mark, and seal the ballot inside the first envelope. That goes into the second envelope and is sealed before these are submitted to the Electoral Board. The voting experience is unique. The early voters will use manual ballots where they will write the names of their chosen candidates. They're also limited to voting for national posts, president, vice president, 12 senators, and 1 party list group. Accomplished ballots will be secured in ballot boxes and will be opened after voting centers close on May 9th. Canvassing will be held at the Palacio del Gobernador, with each vote read out and tallied by Comelec personnel before an audience of poll watchers. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
The Makabayan bloc completes its senatorial lineup less than 2 weeks before the elections. The 10 new candidates are Teddy Bagilat, Jojo Binay, Laila de Lima, Shell Diokno, Cheese Escudero, Luke Espiritu, Risa Ontiveros, Alex Lacson, Lor Legarda, and Sonny Matula. Legarda is the only candidate from Bongbong Marcos' senatorial lineup, while the others are from the slates of Vice President Leni Robredo, Senators Ping Lacson and Manny Pacquiao, and Labor leader Leody de Guzman. Makabayan's Nery Colmenares and Elmer Labog round up the senatorial slate. Makabayan cited the candidates' commitment to reforms and peace talks, as well as their track records in working on issues affecting marginalized sectors. The Progressive Bloc had earlier endorsed the Leni Robredo-Kiko Pangilinan tandem. Up next on Newsnight, one UAAP basketball team inches closer to a Final Four ticket, while another now has a twice-to-beat edge. You're watching CNN Philippines.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Welcome back. It is official. Twitter is selling itself to the richest man in the world. At stake in the buyout, $44 billion, or in pesos, 2.3 trillion. Now, this comes 11 days after the Tesla CEO offered to buy the social media platform. Getting rid of spam bots and authenticating all humans are among the billionaire's plans for Twitter. UAAP News now. The FEU Tamaraos boosted their final 4 chances with today's triumph against the De La Salle Green Archers at the Mall of Asia Arena, 67-62. FEU has 6 wins and 6 losses, putting itself at 4th spot, now above Adamson in the standings. Meanwhile, the UP Fighting Marines secure a twice-to-beat advantage in the Final 4 after reaching their 10th win. UP crushed the UE Red Warriors 81-68. And the Ateneo Blue Eagles still soaring on top of the standings with their 12th consecutive win. Ateneo demolished Adamson 91-57. And that is it for tonight. I'm Pio Otiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Bayan Muna Party List Representative Carlos Zarate says the Makabayan bloc is still waiting for talks with Vice President Leni Robredo as the group has yet to throw its support to a particular presidential aspirant. Zarate says the Makabayan bloc's processes should be respected as he denied former Senator Antonio Trillanes' claim that the group does not support Robredo's bid. He says all groups under the Makabayan coalition should be consulted before it decides on who to support in the upcoming polls. Zarate adds the coalition is also in talks with Senator Manny Pacquiao and Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, who are also both running for president. Makabayan bloc senatorial bet Nery Colmenares trended on social media recently as netizens call for his inclusion in Robredo's senatorial slate. Joining us now is the former Makabayan Party List Representative Nery Colmenares. Attorney Nery, magandang gabi po sa inyo. So parang there are 2 issues here, yung ang inclusion or non-inclusion po ninyo so far sa slate ni Vice President Leni Robredo at ni Senator Kiko Pangilinan, senatorial slate by the way, and the non-declaration or ang Makabayan hindi pa rin pumipili na kung sino ang kanilang or inyong presidential bet. But let's first begin with this, sir, yung unang issue doon. For some reason, kumbaga para bang people don't want the left to forget its past, no? So we've seen several of Leni Robredo's supporters point out on social media that in 1986, for example, nag-boycott pa kayo ng eleksyon. Hindi po kayo sumama doon sa opposition that had the unified slate of Cory Aquino and Doy Laurel as president and VP. And then in 2016, nakipag-alyansa daw po kayo with President Duterte, with several joining his cabinet. Tapos ngayon, para bang out in the cold na naman kayo daw, no? What's going on, no? Bakit parang inuungkat po ito? Bakit nilalabas na naman ito? What's going on in the forces that are supposed to be arrayed against the Duterte and Marcos, the possible Duterte and Marcos team up?
Yes, well, actually, yung 2016, it's been dredged up again. But I would like to express assured yan talaga. We supported Grace Poe until the very end. So, klaro yan sa amin. No? So, sa akin, hindi dapat iungkatin yan. Pero sige, kung ungkatin man yan, ito ang issue ngayon. We are going to unite sana to oppose the return of the Marcoses and of course President Duterte in Malacanang. It is clear naman, Pia, that we are the part of the opposition eh. So I hope na makilala naman ng lahat yan. Marami kaming mga activists and human rights defenders na namatay under President Duterte precisely because he considers us as an opposition, a part of the opposition, at very scathing talaga yung attacks namin sa kanya, and is intolerant of dissent. We know that. So I'm not saying that the other political parties did not suffer death or may mga arrested din sila o posible may mga patay na rin sila. But I'm saying na we are genuinely opposing President Duterte. We did not support President Duterte in 2016. In fact, that is already clear para sa amin. No? If you look at the meeting, the avance of Makabayan in 2016, we said there, right there sa last speech of the election, anong gusto nyo, kamay na bakal or presidente may puso? Klaro talaga yung aming decision doon. Now, the fact that some members of Makabayan campaigned for President Duterte should not sana parang render the entire Makabayan process as parang nag-Duterte na kami. The fact that certain liberal parties, for example, supported Duterte, I wouldn't go to the lengths of saying that Liberal Party went for President Duterte. So sa akin, ganun yung context sana dyan na titingnan ng lahat.
Yeah.
But in any case, nandito na tayo sa 2022
right now,
and I hope opposition yung mag-unite ang opposition against him.
Oo nga eh. Kasi from the outside, para bang what it looks like, Attorney Neri, is para bang lahat nagtuturan ba? Kasi ikaw, parang gano'n na nangyayari, no? So,
Yes.
you know, I wanted to ask you, in your estimation, no, what do you think really is getting in the way of uniting or unifying the opposition against a possible Duterte Marcos? Kasi yun ang, para bang yun ang common, ano? Yun ang sinasabi ng apat na grupo eh. So, if you were to say it in one word, Attorney Neri, ano po ba? What is getting in the way of unity?
Mahirap sa one word, Pia, di ba? Kasi there are various reasons there, I guess. Hindi mo pwedeng i-sum up.
Yeah.
Pero is it uphill? For a long period of time, Duterte was so very effective in intimidating everybody. Kaya hindi talaga nakabangon ng opposition for a long time Control niya mga LGUs, intimidated yung mga checks and balance institutions, nahuhuli, may patayan, gano'n. Now, the good thing there is there are efforts to unify the opposition. And the other good thing is nadi-disintegrate ang Duterte Alliance. May giyera ang Hugpong, may giyera with PDP Laban, may giyera within PDP Laban, ang pro-US at pro-China naglalaban within the Duterte camp. Many of their subalterns are now transferring to other candidates. I guess that's the positive side there also, other than the fact that we're still trying to unify the opposition after all these months.
Yeah, okay. Well, you're pointing to two, well, in a way, sir, external factors, because the disintegration, like you said, of the Duterte alliances with so many groups, and then yung the Duterte administration going after going after all these critics of his, no? But what is it within? Kasi syempre may external at may internal din
Yes.
Ano po ba yung problema? May internal There is something within itong apat na grupo, pati yung sa inyo, that is preventing this. What is it?
Well, President Leni Robredo tried to talk to the other opposition candidates at siguro na nalaman niya kung ano ang dahilan dito. Para sa akin talaga yung meron sigurong dahil walang history ng cooperation, yung all the opposition, all those candidates running against the Duterte candidate, siyempre there is the need to magpakilanlanan sila, and I hope magkakaroon ng trust basis din among themselves. Now, mga supporters, I mean, you cannot control your supporters, but ang palagi kong sinasabi, ang mga candidates themselves, they should not be swayed by the voices sa social media. If they want to unite, they should do that. Is that possible still? Well, it's more difficult now. Nagsasagutan na yung mga presidential candidates. But I would like to think na sana that somewhere along the way, they will realize that only one of them can win. And only one of them can therefore, they should support the other who can win. Diba? Well, Duterte will be very vindictive if he wins. He will go after all opposition candidates na lumaban sa kanya if he returns to Malacanang.
Yeah, well, I like how you're so positive about this, parang sinasabi po niya, somewhere down the road, you will unify.
Yeah.
Sandali lang po, Attorney Neri, kanina sabi po ninyo, President Leni Robredo, or did you say Vice before you said President? Nag-slip of the tongue po ba kayo, or did I hear you right?
No. I meant Vice President Robredo.
You meant Vice President, but you said
I meant
President.
Vice President. Sorry,
okay,
sorry about that.
Okay, pero
I meant
saying,
Vice,
siya na po ba yung pinili ninyo ng makabayan, or siya na ba yung napupusuan ninyo? Kasi may ganyan sir. May yan, slip of the tongue, ganon.
No, yeah, slip of the tongue yun. Kasi Vice President, ano lang yan, slip of the tongue. Klaro ang aming pronouncement yan. Wala pa kaming pinipili na kandidato sa ngayon. In fact, si Vice President Lady, we've been wanting to talk to her for some time to discuss issues and platforms. Unfortunately, it failed for some reasons. But we're still hopeful at sinabi niya that that is still open at yung issue ng platform very important.
Okay.
At Pia, I'd like to stress lang, the issue of platform is very important for us because we have constituencies. Now, inclusion in the slate is part lang yan, 50% lang yan. But it's not merely what is in it for me. It's also what is in it for the people.
Yeah.
So we need to go to our members and say, well, this candidate believes in land reform or believes against contractualization siya or whatever. And it's very important, crucial sa aming discussion.
Okay.
And because we have not talked with the Vice President, hindi kami makadecide sa ngayon.
Okay. So inclusion in the slate, let's leave it for a little later in the show. No? But I wanted to ask about itong, yung sinasabi po nyo, you have to go back to your people and explain kung ano ba yung platform nito, ganito, ganyan. No? So ang isang issue dito is yung mga makakasama mo sa slate. Meron po ba kayong ayaw makasama sa slate? Na para bang, as far as you're concerned, non-negotiable, I'm not gonna take it kung kasama ito si so or so and so sa slate. Pero po ba kayong ganon, or you're not going to be choosy?
In the first place, when Vice President Robredo excluded me from her announced slate, my position and our position has been, it's her prerogative. It's the prerogative of the presidential candidate to choose their senator. I don't think it's in my place to tell her what to do, di ba? So maybe I could agree or disagree with some of the slate, but in the end, it's her choice. So I don't think I will intervene doon sa kanyang slate and say, tell her. Now, supporters and other allies and so on of President Leni Robredo, of course, they have all the right to speak. But me, I would be presumptuous probably to say na, oy, pag mapili ako dyan, ayoko ng ganyan, ayoko ng ganyan. Secondly, and more importantly, dapat ang stress na natin dito, unification of the opposition. Hindi pwedeng magtirahan na, ayoko niyan. It will create more dissension. Tatawanan tayo ni Duterte at ni Marcos dito eh. So para sa akin, mas yun ang focus siguro. And let the president or the presidential candidate, whoever, I mean, Isko and Senator Manny and Lenny, to decide kung sino ang senatorial candidates nila. Prerogative nila yan. And I don't think I will say that to Leni Robredo about her slate.
Okay, marami po tayong tanong para sa inyo, Attorney Neri Colmenares, senatorial aspirant. We're going to get to that in just a bit so we can find out more about your views and plans should you win a seat. And also, later on in the show, in music, Tony Bennett's new album making for another achievement for this 95-year-old jazz icon. Details when we come back.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
welcome back to CNN Philippines. Still with us is Makabayan senatorial aspirant Neri Colmenares. Attorney Neri, there are a few candidates on the slate of VP Leni Robredo who have, to say it very mildly, have reservations about you. What do you think of that? For example, Sani Trillanes.
Well, when we were informed by the camp of Vice President Leni Robredo about more than 2 weeks ago that there were objections, and we were informed it was Senator Trillanes. I didn't raise it. We didn't raise it anytime. Even after her exclusion of me in her announcement 2-3 days ago, when I said, it's her prerogative, I didn't mention about the objection because I had no intention, really, Pia, of diverting the issue towards that. Or anybody in the senatorial slate probably would have all the right to say no or yes to that one and it's up for the Vice President to decide. Now, so sa akin, ang unity ng opposition is more important now, and that is the prerogative of the Vice President again, if she listens to the part of her senatorial slate or not. If she listens, then again, wala naman ako magawa doon, di ba? But if she believes in that the kabayan can help, our national machinery can help, our 3.5 million voter base can help, our poll watchers can help, our social media warriors can help, then so be it. Then we will be very happy. What is clear, we want to defeat Duterte and Marcos here. So whether we're part of any slate or not, we will pursue this endeavor to make sure that they are not in Malacanang in 2022.
So you're willing to set aside all these differences. I mean, I can't help but say, it sounds so refreshing. It sounds so strange to hear you talk this way. Although you've always had this very malumanay tone of voice.
Yeah, I'd like to add there, Pia, this election is really very different from the other elections. This is whole survival na ito natin lahat ang naka-stake dito. We cannot have another 6 years of this kind of COVID response. We cannot have another 6 years of pinamimigay ang ating mga yamang dagat sa China. We cannot have that. So this is the survival sa stake. So iba ang requirements sa lahat ngayon. At sinasabi ko sa mga kasama namin na kahit we can demand from the candidates to unite, but we must also show among ourselves that we unite. How can we unite the candidates if we show among ourselves that we don't unite, diba? So we don't have the moral authority to impose on them the unities if we ourselves cannot have unity. So I'd like to focus on that because Duterte will probably win if we continue bickering at each other. So I'm not, call me eternal optimist, but I think there will still be the chance that people will realize that this is survival of the Filipino people is at stake, and we will unite no matter what because we want to defeat Duterte and Marcos in 2022.
Yes. Okay, well, Attorney Neri, you mentioned the pandemic and China, for example. I have a question about this health crisis. No, if you were to have a say, let's say there is the president who is elected is on your side and you get elected to the Senate, how would you want to have the health crisis managed differently? I know you are a lawyer and you can out-talk anyone, but there, baka you can summarize that.
Free healthcare, very important. Kaya ng gobyerno ba tustusan ang libreng gamot at libreng paggamot? I believe so. Kung kaya natin mangako ng free tuition, we can do free healthcare sa lahat without any qualms. Pag pumunta ka sa ospital, libre hospitalisasyon, libre konsultasyon, libre operasyon. And we can do that. Secondly, ang COVID response natin must not only be vaccine-centered. It must also focus on contact tracing. It must also focus on mass testing. Because unless we do these things, paulit-ulit lang yung COVID, di ba? So, bakuna is very important, very good, but we also need these other aspects ng COVID response, which Duterte is not doing. And I don't believe in the long-generated kind of COVID response ng utang na hindi naman ang mamamayang Pilipino magbabayad dyan. He's borrowed 2.6 trillion last year, he's going to borrow 3 trillion last year. Saan napunta yung pera niyon? Maraming hindi nakatanggap ng ayuda. So, yung ayuda would be very important din, Pinky. Sorry, lawyer of me to talk longer than I should. Yes.
Attorney Neri, yes or no questions na lang po, no explanation, yes or no. First, do you favor easier public access to the SALN of the President, Vice President, members of Congress, Senators, Congressmen? Yes or no?
Yes, access dapat sa public. Makabayan has always issued our SALNs publicly.
Okay. Okay, sir, wala na pong explanation. Do you support lifting foreign ownership limits in the Constitution? Yes or no? I think I know what you're going to say. Do you favor the reimposition of the death penalty for drug-related crimes? Yes or no?
No.
Should the sitting president be allowed to run for VP in the next? Should the sitting president be allowed to run for VP in the next election, although President Duterte hasn't filed his COC? Okay, no. Do you favor resuming peace talks with communist rebels? Yes or no?
Yes.
Say yes.
Yes. Peace is important.
And lastly,
yes.
should the country be more aggressive in protecting its maritime interests in the West Philippine Sea? Yes or no, sir?
Yes, very much. We should be more aggressive than now.
Attorney Neri Colmenares, thank you, sir, very much for joining us tonight here on Newsnight on Up Close. Salamat po, sir.
Maraming salamat din po.
When we return, netizens are getting excited to hear a K-pop
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.